Welcome to the God Quiz channel. Are you ready for a new challenge? Before we dive in, show your support by giving us a like, subscribing, and commenting Amen below. Don't forget to share how many questions you answered correctly at the end. So, let's get started. Question 1. Who was struck blind on the road to Damascus? A. Peter. B. Saul. C. John. D. James. The right answer is letter B. As Saul drew near to Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting," he replied. "Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do." Question 2. Who was the prophetess that judged Israel and led them to victory over the Canaanites? A. Deborah. B. Huldah. C. Miriam. D. Anna. The right answer is letter A. And he had harshly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. Now Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, was judging Israel at that time, and she would sit under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, where the Israelites would go up to her for judgment. Question 3. Which king consulted a medium at Endor to summon the spirit of Samuel? A. David. B. Saul. C. Solomon. D. Rehoboam. The right answer is letter B. Then Saul said to his servants, "Find me a woman who is a medium so I can go and consult her." "There is a medium at Endor," his servants replied. So Saul disguised himself by putting on different clothes, and he set out with 2 of his men. They came to the woman at night, and Saul said, "Consult a spirit for me. Bring up for me the one I name." Question 4. Who interpreted the handwriting on the wall during Belshazzar's feast? A. Ezekiel. B. Joseph. C. Daniel. D. Isaiah. The right answer is letter C. Now this is the inscription that was written: Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. And this is the interpretation of the message. Mene means that God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. Tekel means that you have been weighed on the scales and found deficient. Peres means that your kingdom has been divided and given over to the Medes and Persians. Question 5. Who was the Babylonian king who went mad and lived like an animal for 7 years? A. Belshazzar. B. Darius. C. Nebuchadnezzar. D. Cyrus. The right answer is letter C. At that moment, the sentence against Nebuchadnezzar was fulfilled. He was driven away from mankind. He ate grass like an ox, and his body was drenched with the dew of heaven until his hair grew like the feathers of an eagle and his nails like the claws of a bird. Question 6. Who killed 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey? A. Gideon. B. Samson. C. David. D. Saul.
The right answer is letter B.
When Samson arrived in Lehi, the Philistines came out shouting against him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. The ropes on his arms became like burnt flax, and the bonds broke loose from his hands. He found the fresh jawbone of a donkey, reached out his hand and took it, and struck down 1,000 men.
Question 7.
Who was the prophet that confronted King David about his sin with Bathsheba? A. Nathan. B. Samuel. C. Gad. D. Ahijah.
The right answer is letter A.
Because he has done this thing and has shown no pity, he must pay for the lamb 4 times over. Then Nathan said to David, "You are that man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul."
Question 8.
Who did God command to marry a prostitute to symbolize Israel's unfaithfulness? A. Zephaniah. B. Amos. C. Micah. D. Hosea.
The right answer is letter D.
This is the word of the Lord that came to Hosea son of Beeri in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, and of Jeroboam son of Jehoash, a king of Israel. When the Lord first spoke through Hosea, he told him, "Go, take a prostitute as your wife and have children of adultery, because this land is flagrantly prostituting itself by departing from the Lord."
Question 9.
What prophet was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind? A. Elisha. B. Elijah. C. Isaiah. D. Jeremiah.
The right answer is letter B.
"You have requested a difficult thing," said Elijah. "Nevertheless, if you see me as I am taken from you, it will be yours. But if not, then it will not be so." As they were walking along and talking together, suddenly a chariot of fire with horses of fire appeared and separated the two of them, and Elijah went up into heaven in a whirlwind.
Question 10.
Who built an altar to Baal and an Asherah pole, but later tore them down at God's command? A. Gideon. B. Samson. C. Jephthah. D. Deborah.
The right answer is letter A.
On that very night the Lord said to Gideon, "Take your father's young bull and a second bull 7 years old, tear down your father's altar to Baal, and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Then build a proper altar to the Lord your God on the top of this stronghold."
Question 11.
Who reigned as king of Judah for only 3 months before being taken to Egypt? A. Amon. B. Zedekiah. C. Josiah. D. Jehoahaz.
The right answer is letter D.
Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah. She was from Libnah, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord, just as his fathers had done. And Pharaoh Necho imprisoned Jehoahaz at Riblah in the land of Hamath, so that he could not reign in Jerusalem.
Question 12.
Who led a revolt against King Solomon's son Rehoboam and became the first king of the northern kingdom of Israel? A. Ahab. B. Omri. C. Jeroboam. D. Jehu.
The right answer is letter C.
When all Israel heard that Jeroboam had returned, they summoned him to the assembly and made him king over all Israel. Only the tribe of Judah followed the house of David. And when Rehoboam arrived in Jerusalem, he mobilized the whole house of Judah and the tribe of Benjamin, 180,000 chosen warrior.
Question 13.
Who was turned into a pillar of salt for looking back at the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah? A. Lot's wife. B. Lot's daughter. C. Sarah. D. Hagar.
The right answer is letter A.
Then the Lord rained down sulfur and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he destroyed these cities and the entire plain, including all the inhabitants of the cities and everything that grew on the ground. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt.
Question 14.
Who was the king that ordered the death of all male infants in Bethlehem? A. Caesar Augustus. B. Herod the Great. C. Pontius Pilate. D. Tiberius.
The right answer is letter B.
When Herod saw that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was filled with rage. Sending orders, he put to death all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, according to the time he had learned from the Magi.
Question 15.
Who interpreted Pharaoh's dream of 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine? A. Joseph. B. Daniel. C. Moses. D. Aaron.
The right answer is letter A.
The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 ripe heads of grain are 7 years. The dreams have the same meaning. Moreover, the 7 thin, ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and so are the 7 worthless heads of grain scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine.
Question 16.
Who was the Ethiopian eunuch baptized by Philip? A. Candace. B. Simeon. C. Ebed-Melech. D. He is not named.
The right answer is letter D.
Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, "Get up and go south to the desert road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza." So he started out, and on his way he met an Ethiopian eunuch, a court official in charge of the entire treasury of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians. He had gone to Jerusalem to worship.
Question 17.
Who was thrown into a pit and sold into slavery by his brothers? A. Judah. B. Benjamin. C. Joseph. D. Simeon.
The right answer is letter C.
Reuben said this so that he could rescue Joseph from their hands and return him to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors he was wearing, and they took him and threw him into the pit. Now the pit was empty, with no water in it.
Question 18.
Who was the queen that visited Solomon to test his wisdom? A. Jezebel. B. Queen of Sheba. C. Esther. D. Bathsheba.
The right answer is letter B.
Now when the Queen of Sheba heard about the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to test him with difficult questions. She arrived in Jerusalem with a very large caravan, with camels bearing spices, gold in great abundance, and precious stones. So she came to Solomon and spoke to him all that was on her mind.
Question 19.
Who cursed a fig tree, causing it to wither because it had no fruit? A. Jesus. B. Peter. C. John the Baptist. D. Paul.
The right answer is letter A.
In the morning, as Jesus was returning to the city, he was hungry. Seeing a fig tree by the road, he went up to it but found nothing on it except leaves. "May you never bear fruit again," he said. And immediately the tree withered. When the disciples saw this, they marveled and asked, "How did the fig tree wither so quickly?"
Question 20.
Who was the king that saw the writing on the wall during a feast? A. Darius. B. Nebuchadnezzar. C. Belshazzar. D. Cyrus.
The right answer is letter C.
Later, King Belshazzar held a great feast for 1,000 of his nobles, and he drank wine with them. Under the influence of the wine, Belshazzar gave orders to bring in the gold and silver vessels that Nebuchadnezzar his father had taken from the temple in Jerusalem, so that the king could drink from them, along with his nobles, his wives, and his concubines.
Question 21.
Who was thrown into a furnace but was not harmed by the fire? A. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. B. Daniel. C. Nehemiah. D. Ezekiel.
The right answer is letter A.
At this, Nebuchadnezzar was filled with rage, and the expression on his face changed toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He gave orders to heat the furnace 7 times hotter than usual, and he commanded some mighty men of valor in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing fiery furnace.
Question 22.
Who deceived Isaac to receive his brother's blessing? A. Esau. B. Jacob. C. Laban. D. Joseph.
The right answer is letter B.
So Jacob went to his father and said, "My father." "Here I am," he answered. "Which one are you, my son?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may bless me."
Question 23.
Who struck the rock twice to bring forth water, disobeying God's command? A. Moses. B. Aaron. C. Joshua. D. Caleb.
The right answer is letter A.
Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with his staff, so that a great amount of water gushed out, and the congregation and their livestock were able to drink. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust me to show my holiness in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this assembly into the land that I have given them."
Question 24.
Who was the judge that made a vow resulting in the sacrifice of his daughter? A. Gideon. B. Samson. C. Jephthah. D. Ehud.
The right answer is letter C.
Jephthah made this vow to the Lord. "If indeed you will deliver the Ammonites into my hand, then whatever comes out the door of my house to greet me on my triumphant return from the Ammonites will belong to the Lord, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering."
Question 25.
Who did God command to go to Nineveh and preach against it? A. Joel. B. Amos. C. Hosea. D. Jonah.
The right answer is letter D.
Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah son of Amittai, saying, "Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me." Jonah, however, got up to flee to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship bound for Tarshish.
Question 26.
Who was the Moabite woman who became an ancestor of King David? A. Ruth. B. Naomi. C. Orpah. D. Esther.
The right answer is letter A.
So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And when he had relations with her, the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. Then the women said to Naomi, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a kinsman redeemer. May his name become famous in Israel."
Question 27.
Who was chosen to lead the Israelites into the promised land after Moses' death? A. Joshua. B. Caleb. C. Aaron. D. Gideon.
The right answer is letter A.
Now, after the death of his servant Moses, the Lord spoke to Joshua son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, "Moses, my servant is dead. Now therefore arise, you and all these people, and cross over the Jordan into the land that I am giving to the children of Israel. I have given you every place where the sole of your foot will tread, just as I promised to Moses."
Question 28.
Who interpreted King Nebuchadnezzar's dream of a statue made of various materials? A. Ezekiel. B. Joseph. C. Daniel. D. Jeremiah.
The right answer is letter C.
Your Majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. Write on the comments how many questions you answered correctly. If you like this quiz, rate it with the like button. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Amen.